Now, when we talk about setting boundaries with toxic, narcissistic people in your life, maybe family members or toxic coworkers or narcissistic spouses, it's important that we understand this, that the best boundaries are going to be boundaries that are application, not boundaries that are a declaration. In other words, we're not trying to declare to others what our boundaries are and expecting them to work, because it is not going to. Everybody say this with me. Healthy boundaries are an application, not a declaration. One more time. Healthy boundaries are an application, not a declaration. I want this to get seared in your mind by the end of this message, and you're going to see why and how you can free yourself of toxic relationships, especially with family. When it comes to trying to declare your boundaries, which is what I deal with, I've been there. I tried to do that. It failed epically. Typically with one-on-one coaching calls, a lot of people are asking me, hey, Kevin, will you help me write this letter, or should I send this letter and explain to them this and X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, what for? Trying to declare your boundaries again? Listen, anytime you try to declare your boundaries, meaning you're just trying to get people to understand where you're coming from, all you're doing is telling them what makes you feel uncomfortable. That's all declaring your boundaries does. And by the way, when you're dealing with toxic narcissistic people, they turn that into ammunition to use it against you. It empowers them to know what makes you feel so uncomfortable. Now, when you apply boundaries, what you're actually doing is making them uncomfortable. Have I intrigued you? Well, stay with me, because we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the difference between just declaring your boundaries and why it fails, and applying boundaries, and how it's going to help you to succeed and break free of toxicity. My name is Kevin. This is The Royal We. Now, before I do continue, I want to let you know that I am here to support you. Down in the description box, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. I do take telephone calls as well as video calls. So before you think of sending off that letter to your toxic family members explaining what makes you feel uncomfortable about the relationship, or perhaps you're thinking of inviting everybody over and pouring some coffee and tea and having a nice little rational sit-down talk-a-doodle-doo, right? Which is not going to amount to anything except give them more ammunition. Don't do that. Contact me instead so we can talk about how to apply boundaries to your life to keep those toxic people out. Head on down there, schedule some one-on-one time with me. Also, I have a coaching program, and now my coaching program is live and in person each and every day. It's community-oriented. We are working on a diary and a journal, not only to help you establish healthy boundaries, but to help you move on in your life, to do exciting new things, to really live your life from within, to create a boldness, to create an assertiveness, to help you go after the things you're ready to go after in this life. All right, head on down there, join the Rowie Coaching Program. Now, let's dive right into this topic. It is a super important topic. I've been there, by the way. I'm going to start talking about declaring boundaries, because this is what we typically do without even knowing it. And to begin with, I want to let you know that you have been declaring your boundaries since the moment you said, I don't like that. Please stop. You've been declaring your boundaries for years. What makes you think that one more conversation or one more written letter is going to do any bit of good? It's not. I'm going to share with you my own personal experience of how I started to declare my boundaries and how it backfired. I remember when I was dealing with the toxic narcissistic in-laws that I was dealing with, who became aggressively hostile in their language and cussing and screaming and yelling at me and wanting to fight and carry on and all this stupid stuff, right? And as a new father at the time, I didn't want to be around it. And so I tried to make it known, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this, right? And here's what I've experienced when you deal with narcissistic people. When you start to let them know you're uncomfortable with something, which is what declaring boundaries actually does, it tells them what makes you feel uncomfortable. The first thing I experienced was I was mocked. I was mocked for it. I would suddenly hear around the corner, oh, our family makes fun of each other with mean language. Ha 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 ha. Oh, it's so hurtful. Oh, ha ha ha. Right? True mockery, making a mockery of it and making social media posts about that. Oh, our mean family. Oh, we're so mean because of the way we talk, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That is the first thing that you will notice from toxic narcissistic people is they will mock you and your boundaries. They will mock you because, well, number one, they don't care about you. They just don't. This is the reality. Listen, in a perfect world without narcissism, yes, you should be able to say, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. You should set that boundary, declare a boundary, and people be like, oh, okay, I get it. But no. Listen, we live in a narcissistic world where your family members are toxic even, and they're going to mock your boundaries. They're not going to get it. It's kind of like, listen, if you've got skunks and rodents coming into your yard, how are you going to get them to stop? Well, you're not going to have a little sit-down chat with them now, are you? Hey, you stinky skunk, would you please stop coming to my yard? It makes me uncomfortable. It stinks up the place. They're not even going to understand your language. Narcissistic people operate in the same way. They don't even understand your language when you're trying to rationalize boundaries. When you're declaring boundaries, as a matter of fact, they use it as ammunition. See, when I was trying to tell these people, hey, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm a new father. I don't want to be around the cussing. I didn't realize it, but I was just giving them ammunition. I was giving ammunition to people who already don't care about me or how I'm feeling or about any boundaries. And I didn't even know it was called boundaries at that time. But then it got worse because I then did also try to have that family get together. I said, all right, let's all get together. And I met with them, individually and said, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. And I even apologized, by the way, which, by the way, never do that. Never apologize for setting boundaries. That was by far the one thing I did that I'm like, what did I apologize for? The only thing I should have apologized for in dealing with toxic people, the only thing we should ever apologize for is for wasting our time with them. If you ever want to apologize to toxic people, that's what it should be. That's what it should sound like. Just that. Listen, I'm sorry I wasted my time with you. Right? Because in a way, you're just apologizing to yourself and then bounce, leave. But there I was in this group setting, like many of you, trying to have this sit down, rational conversation. Hey, this makes me uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have to say this, but listen, I'm a new father. I don't want to be around all the name calling and the cussing, please, and blah, blah. The next thing I experienced from this interaction was, oh, we don't know what you're talking about, Kevin. That's the next thing you can expect. When you try to sit down and articulate what's going on and rationalize, you're going to get the shrugged shoulders. We don't know what you're talking about. We just, we talk how we talk. We don't notice anything bad about it. Right? So dismissiveness. So number one, they're going to mock you for trying to declare your boundaries. And number two, they're going to dismiss it. But the worst part about it, again, is keep in mind, when you declare boundaries, you're telling them what makes you feel uncomfortable. In the mind of a narcissistic person that is taken, they're saying, thank you, I receive what makes you feel uncomfortable, and now I'm going to hit you over and over and over again with that which makes you feel uncomfortable. So do you see how declaring your boundaries will never work? It will only backfire. That's all it's going to do. Now let's talk about applying boundaries, because in my own personal experience and how I coach people one-on-one is that applying boundaries makes them uncomfortable. And that's what you want. Applying boundaries, if you don't want skunks and rodents in your yard, means that you are building parameters that make them too uncomfortable to come in and stink up your yard. The same is true with narcissistic people, toxic family members. You are doing things, you are applying boundaries in a way that make it uncomfortable for them. I started to notice this when I stopped engaging, stopped asking these toxic people to please be mindful and this and that. And I started saying, nope, I'm not going. Nope, I'm not coming. Nope, you're not going to be on my social media. Nope, I started building these walls to keep them out, making it too uncomfortable for them to try to find a way to me. I'm going to share with you a funny antidote, I guess, that I give to some of my clients, because I get this a lot. A lot of people out there married, everything's going good in their marriage, but they have toxic moms and dads or in-laws or family members who don't understand boundaries, don't care. They show up whenever they want to show up, unannounced, uninvited, entitled. How many of you deal with toxic family members like that? And you can sit there and say, hey, listen, can you please call? It's uncomfortable when you just show up unannounced. Please call. It doesn't work. Because again, all you're doing is telling them what makes you feel uncomfortable. So what I say is this. Instead, how about this? Listen, make them uncomfortable. Here's what I would do. All right? Here's what I would do. I got family members that show up unannounced, don't have the respect or the courtesy to call in advance, just feel entitled to show up. The moment they arrived, and I knew it was them, just strip off all the clothes, butt naked, answer the door. What's up? What are you doing? Listen, I'm having sex. You should have called, right? I mean, you want to come in and wait? It's going to be a couple hours, right? And some of you are like, oh, Kevin, I'm not married. It sounds funny. I get it, but I'm not married, or I don't want to do that. Make up anything. Get naked. Show up. Tell them you're doing naked Pilates. The point is to do something that is so shocking to them that it almost embarrasses them for even being there. It makes them uncomfortable. It should, unless they're weird freaks. All right? If your family member's that freaky, then you better move to a different country. You know what I'm saying? The point is, you're making them uncomfortable for showing up unannounced. Right? Worst case scenario, maybe it's you and your wife or significant other. You've answered the door naked. Hey, I'm having sex, right? And listen, and just tell them, hey, priorities, right? I don't know about you, but to me, sex is a priority over dealing with toxic family members, right? You could even have fun, with you and your wife. Maybe you're not really having sex, but go into the room then afterwards and start making all kinds of loud noises, throwing things up against the walls, this and that, while they're waiting out there listening for 2 hours, right? Again, I think you get the point. You're making them uncomfortable and shocked enough that hopefully, if you're lucky, they won't ever come back again. But if they do, they will call first, right? They'll call first just to see if you're dressed, if you got your clothes on. This is what it looks like when you start to get creative in making applicable boundaries. What you're saying is, this is my life. I'm living my life, right? And you are going to respect my boundaries, my time. You're not entitled. And if you're going to continue to be disrespectful, get prepared, because you're going to be very uncomfortable. This is what applied boundaries look like. You make them uncomfortable. Okay? They want to cuss, scream, yell, and shout. Well, you just stay away from them. You don't go to their parties. You don't show up. You make them uncomfortable by your absence. And yes, your absence does make narcissistically abusive family members especially very uncomfortable. Because they can't control you. So the point is applied boundaries. Living your life in such a way where you are building boundaries around you. It's how you are living your life. It's how you are now making it uncomfortable for narcissistic people, toxic family members, those people who are entitled in your life to do whatever they want to do. You're making it too uncomfortable for them to get what they want out of you. You're making it uncomfortable. This is applied boundaries, which is far better than declaring your boundaries, which is telling them how uncomfortable you are. So let's work on swapping that. No more trying to tell narcissistic, toxic people what makes you uncomfortable. It's time to live your life and create boundaries around you, what you're doing to make them uncomfortable, too uncomfortable to impose their need to control over you. This is applied boundaries. Now, do we have any questions? Does anybody have any questions about what I've talked about? Does it make sense? If you are in need right now of one-on-one support because you are thinking about having yet another conversation, telling narcissistic, toxic family members what makes you feel uncomfortable, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. It will backfire and it will keep you stuck. But if you're ready to learn tactics to apply boundaries around your life, head on down there. Give me a call. I'm waiting for your telephone call to work one-on-one with you to creatively start to make applied boundaries in your life fit to your unique situation. Head on down there. Schedule that time with me right now. And I'll be back with more videos right here on the Royal We. Until I'm back, I encourage you to watch one of these videos recommended by the YouTube algorithm for you. And also, if you're new to the Royal We channel, be sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with somebody who you feel needs to work on applying boundaries in their life. And I'll be back right here on the Royal We.